Hi, welcome to Canvas. We've suddenly got a live impromptu talk with local artist Elizabeth Haines and her new exhibition. So, over to Elizabeth. So, hi Elizabeth.
Hi. Thanks very much for inviting me to do this. And thank you for offering me the show, because it's a super space. And you were quite right, only to have a few big ones, not small ones as well.
Well, I must say I've been so impressed with the work you've been doing during lockdown and before lockdown over the last few years. These larger works, you know, not so, your work has always been at a really, really high level. And personally, I think this jumps it into another sphere. So would you mind introducing us to your work that you've been doing on this scale and tell us a bit about it?
Well, all of these are really prompted, or a sort of an undertone of political events in the last few years, and my overriding sense of disquiet, unease, despair, and the kind of metaphors that have come naturally are those of the sea rather than the land, which I know much better. Perhaps this is because I've been frightened at sea.
So if these come into your... do you know what you're going to paint when you start painting? Because you are more known for landscape and living in the Preseli Hills. And I don't tend to think of you as a kind of seascape painter. Not that you do paint seascapes, but these, are so based in the sea and the water.
Yes, well, I mean, if I look at my sketchbook, I brought it just this one along. I don't think there's really hardly any of the sea in this particular one. I mean, these were horses done during lockdown that I developed.
They're beautiful in themselves.
But no, there isn't really the sea.
So with that, were you struck by the images on TV? Because you also painted Notre Dame last year when that was in flames.
The fire, well,
and
was from television,
but that was really beautiful as well. It was a very, obviously...
It was an overriding, emotion and feeling, towards this building and the tragedy of it. But for instance, this one, which I call Loosening the Moorings, this definitely, the title came after the painting, and it came from an Instagram post of a French friend of mine who said that she was very sorry that the British were lâcher ses amarres, loosening their moorings, and I felt reading that described that, but I didn't know it at the time. I certainly had no title. And in fact, if I'm painting, if a title or any sort of words come to mind, I try and quash it. If it becomes too...
it kind of makes it too restrictive then, doesn't it?
It does start to restrict it. I find I have to give myself over to the act of painting.
Because this one, I almost see things like, almost like I know it can be any bit interpretation, but you've got like the lighthouse and almost like the waves crashing in. I mean, that's my kind of reading on that.
Yes, that could be.
And even the white cliffs, so it's that kind of how you...
I hadn't seen it like
But there's all those different
I'm
things.
No, well, again, if you say a lighthouse, the year before last, I went by boat down to Bilbao, and we went through the Ras de Seine, and I was with a friend who sailed in the Ras de Seine.
Right.
And you go in between these lighthouses, it's a perilous passage through these rocks, through the coast of Brittany, is perilous all the way. And those those images, I drew the whole way on the boat from the minute we got on.
Really?
So we woke up the next morning, and I was still drawing when we were eating supper in the restaurant in the evening. So yes, now you say it could well be one of these rocky promontories and a lighthouse.
So I know we've had. I mean, the feedback has been fantastic on the show, and a couple of paintings. Obviously, different people picking out on different paintings. But one of the ones that's really everyone's saying that they're kind of that seems to be is this one. So, which is the White Mountain, which is again a bit more like your. I would tend to think of your more landscape painting, but again, it has a different edge and a different feel to.
Well, it's the mountain really that I see out of my barn when I'm painting.
Is it every day?
Every day, and I've seen it for the last, more than 50 years. So it's not surprising, that it might come in.
That it's come in.
But I've nevertheless obviously taken liberties with the gnarled trees and the jumble of fence posts in the sheep pens, which are just outside the window. But that doesn't have any particular overtones.
But it does sit. It sits with the other way.
It seems to sit with these.
Yeah, I mean.
It seems to sit with these. I mean, this one over here, the very first one that I did, that I realised was a painting to do with current events was, I think, the end of 2016 or that sort of time. Here because it's sold, and somebody looked at it and they said, "Is that a boat?" And I said, "Oh well, it could be, yes, if you want it to be." And they said, "It's going downhill."
Sorry, I've got Claire. Claire's just come in online now. Have you got a question, Claire?
Yeah, what's her influences with her artwork? Because there's such beautiful colours.
What are your influences, Claire's asking?
Do you mean with these particular paintings or in general?
With these paintings in particular.
Well, the sea and my experience of the sea, but other painters.
Yeah, because I'm looking at these, and when I first saw them, I thought Graham Sutherland. But as I was saying, to someone recently, your mark making is just so beautiful in the way you kind of build everything up. Whereas I always find Graham Sutherland's work is beautiful as I prefer his watercolours to his oil paintings.
Yes. Yeah, his works on paper. I did see a show of his in Oxford.
And they're very beautiful.
Oh, they are very beautiful.
So is he one of the people or not so much?
He is one of the people, along with John Piper, Kandinsky, Cézanne, of course, who could not say Cézanne, but Ivan Hitchens, Roger Cecil, how many more can I think of?
So do you find that you get solutions from the artists, or do they just more that they inspire you to work?
They inspire me. I think, now then, he's done that. Or, yes, I need to make some larger shapes, or I need to,
It's a bit of a problem solve in a way.
It's to do with sort of technical, perhaps if you want to call it that, the way they've done things. And that mixes in with what you're thinking about. And I think a lot of these, if they have anything in common, and it's what joins perhaps that landscaping one to the others, is an overriding desire not to keep doing things in too much detail and to bring a name to what I'm doing too early, which comes from years of having to do book illustration.
Yeah,
where you had to do, solve a specified problem. Now, it's a kind of vandalism sometimes. If
I love that.
Don't like what's there.
Then you.
I mean, this one was completely slashed over. I took a great big Chinese brush.
Yeah.
And I've got to cover that up.
Because that's another one that is, when I'm saying, have you got to, I always say to people, is there something that's caught your eye in the exhibition? And it's that one and the mountain, which I think I can see the connections with the shapes. You can see some stylistically.
You can't help it. You have to do those, or tend to do those kind of shapes that come from within yourself. But then there's the other things that are impinging on it, like you may have discovered a new paint, you may have just seen something, another painter's work that really inspires you, and then all the time, I suppose it's like levels in music. And right underneath there's a cantus firmus, which for me is this growing disquiet about what's going on, particularly in this country. And so I tend to pick up things, or the painting picks them up. I don't seem to have any control. And then somebody will come along and say, oh, is that a sea creature? Is that a boat?
So is it almost like a sense of isolation when you're talking about, because that one's obviously a love of landscape and Welsh landscape and a placing, and these almost feel like, you know, a kind of a, it is that set adrift.
It's the bees, it's the setting adrift, and the idea, this one I call the islands, again, because that's, I mean, an island, that's very allegorical, isn't it? It's something that has edges and that is not connected, except perhaps by bedrock,
Yeah.
you know, to other islands.
So with your choice of colour as well, do you have a kind of colour palette that you work from, or is that again something that kind of generates as you're actually?
I choose.
You don't have a limited, so you don't, like a lot of artists will have a set palette of cerulean, alizarin. You know, you seem to have a kind of almost like a joy of fresh colour coming in.
I like to be, not quite sure what it's going to look like.
Okay.
Generally, well, I think as you can see, I like cobalt blue, you know, which may drift into ultramarine violet on one hand and may drift into a sort of turquoisey colour on the other. And then having done any one colour like that, it of course it's desperate for its complementary.
Yes, because you do that. You work a lot with complementaries,
yes,
don't you?
And then the colours that you get, the subtle greys that occur in between.
Yeah.
Which ensures that you have what Monet called a colour envelope. You know, a colour family. They're related. You're not just taking a dip into.
And do you find that if you put a colour next to a colour, are you looking for that kind of physical response from someone looking at it, or is it just a satisfaction with that looks right to me?
Yes, I do it not really knowing exactly what the result is going to be. I mean, you can say, oh well, if I put such and such there or there, that'll probably look like so and so.
Yeah.
But actually, it doesn't. And the minute you put it there, it's as much. The process of painting is as much listening and watching what you're doing and what the painting's doing and responding to it, rather than, for me in any case, carrying on with an idea that you may have had in your head to start with.
Because you've got really sensitive marks here, and you've got some lovely marks, and then, but at the same point, it's actually, you've got strong shapes and you've got strong colours coming in. So as much as I tend to think of your work and in your landscape work as being about that sensitivity of touch, you've also kind of got a boldness and a form here, which I think comes through more than your other work, you know, in this new body of work. I just think
perhaps it comes from anger.
Anger, yes. There's a strength.
I think it does.
I think there's a strength rather than a, you know.
Yeah, it does. When I was doing my thesis, I happened to come across a book. It was talking about, you know, you're doing a dissertation, how you might choose your subject. I mean, I already knew what my subject was, but he ended the chapter saying, for a writer, and I would add for a painter, to be angry is to be in luck, because it's emotional energy.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily produce anything, well, purely from my point of view, you wouldn't just produce anything from being sort of quite content and sitting out in the garden in the sun and thinking it's all marvellous.
Yeah. That's not, no.
No, I'm afraid not.
Because these have got a strength and a substance in them. I mean, I think that it's an astonishing exhibition. I'm very pleased that you agreed to come and let us have it here, and that we were able to.
Well, I'm delighted to be here.
Excellent. Yes. Okay, well, we'll sign off for now, and we'll do some other videos about little bits of the work. Yeah. And for everyone who joined in, we'll be posting this later. So thank you for watching. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Thank